President George Bush has talked time and time again about a new world order. And this is the best chance to begin to establish the new world order. And that's why the stakes are so high. It's not just Kuwait. It's not just Iraq. It is a question far more fundamental than that. It is a question if, in fact, an allied coalition, 28 nations deploying forces in the Persian Gulf, can in fact establish order there in a very volatile region. And if we establish order and establish peace and stability, which I think that we will, it will have a tremendous impact on future tyrants and dictators that will think about going in and gobbling up a weaker country.
Что мир развернулся в своем движении в другом направлении, к новому мировому порядку.
I think even that does not describe why the world has changed so much and why the world has turned so much toward a new world order and a new kind of civilization.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law.
As we near the end of this decade and the 20th century, we find that psychics such as Nostradamus and Edgar Cayce predicted the occurrence of cataclysmic events before the year 2000. Jesus Christ also prophesied that wars and rumors of wars would increase. Nation would rise up against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Famines, pestilence, and earthquakes would occur with ever-increasing frequency. The earth itself would become as a woman writhing in the agony of childbirth. Are we headed for what the Bible describes as Armageddon? Is the end of the world at hand? Or rather, is mankind on the brink of a new age of spiritual power and enlightenment, a new world order? Stay tuned as we cover these topics on Millennium 2000.
War has been declared against you, your family, your child, your mother. There isn't anything that you have or ever hope to have that they're not planning on taking away. I'm talking about the oligarchy of evil that controls this country. The American dream is over. The American nightmare is here. 26 years ago, I produced a set of albums called the Illuminati CFR, which addressed this issue, which talked about a group of people that were Masons, that were maniacal, that had organized to put together a global government upon the ashes of all national sovereignty, upon the ashes of your nation. By the year 2000, we will be enslaved. There's no question about it. It's irreversible. And of course, there is one out. We could incite a revelation. We could have a revolution, but the choice is yours. We must incite that revelation, otherwise we will have a revolution. How can we change it? Bring it down to the street. They have a program to inject your child, a vaccination program to put a transponder at the back of the hand so that your child would be identified from birth. The expert on that is sitting right next to me, Mr. Terry Cook. Terry, welcome to Millennium 2000.
Thank you, Anthony. I'm happy to be here today.
For 25 years, Jordan Maxwell has been researching the Illuminati, this oligarchy of evil. Jordan, welcome to the show. I'm going to start off with you. When did you first discover that this group wanted to enslave us?
Well, Anthony, actually, I've been involved in the research of the Illuminati ever since I first heard your records about 25 years ago. But my interest in the occult subjects of the mysticism behind the world order that we live in started long before that. When I was a small child, my mother had an uncle that worked in the Vatican Secretary of State's office as a civilian, and on occasions when he would come home to visit the family, he would sit for hours and talk about the international intrigue going on behind the scenes of world government and religion, and it was fascinating to me, and I grew up with this. I have a senator and a congressman in my family from long ago. I have federal judges in my family, so I grew up in the atmosphere of politics, behind the scenes, listening to very wise men in politics and religion talking about conspiracies and international intrigue. And so I was very interested in this subject in my teens, and then of course when I first heard your albums that you produced on the Illuminati, all the pieces began to fit together better for me, because I understood there was world conspiracy. Something that the old man said many years ago. He said that conspiracies are able to deal with just about anything. They can buy you off, they can shoot you, they can deal with you in just about any way they want.
Well, they own the money system.
Right, but the one thing he said they cannot deal with is exposure. No conspiracy can deal with exposure. Once the truth is out and the people understand, then they have problems. And I'm saying that the power of any government is in the people. And a classic example of that, how would you like to go to a summit with the king of America and the king of China, and you being the king of Fredonia with 500 subjects? You might as well stay home, because the power of a king is in how many people are in his kingdom. So the point I'm making here is that there is a tremendous power in the hands of the people of America if they would just wake up, because they are the power of this country. The people decide what will happen, and the people have allowed these things to happen and allow them to continue to go their way and be entertained, and that is the problem that we're facing, not only with the religious and political leaders that are part of this, but the real problem is the people have allowed it to happen.
In the land of the blind, the one eye is king. Terry Cook, you came on strong and heavy just a few years ago, and you become the expert on this new computer chip that's supposed to go in the back of the hand. It all relates to this Council on Foreign Relations group, the Bilderbergers, the Club of Rome, this oligarchy who's trying to bring it all about.
That's right, Anthony. Let's make a very complex issue as simple as possible for the people's benefit. The New World Order really consists of three aspects. There is a New World political system that everyone today is calling the New World Order. As well as that, there is an economic plan for the New World Order, and that is called the New World Economic Order. In addition to those two items, there's a third plan for religion. You see, the planners of the world know that men need a religion of some kind, even if it's a false one. So they have a plan to give us a new age world global occultic religion. So really there's three aspects to this New World Order. A New World Economic Order in which a computer chip will be injected into our hands or foreheads as a means to track, control, and identify us, and will also be used to make our purchases and scan its stores.
Well, they've already put the program in Los Angeles. In fact,
right.
A trilateralist named Mayor Bradley, Uncle Tom Bradley, was responsible for putting this in dogs.
Right.
And your children will be considered like animals. And
but you know, before we get into that, which is later down the road, I think we should clearly explain to people what the Illuminati is. You know, for those of us who are acquainted with this term, we don't have to explain it to ourselves, but for the average person out there, they've never heard this term. Jordan, explain to people what Illuminati means.
Well, it comes from, the word Illuminati comes from the Latin word illuminan or illumin, which means light. And so anyone who is enlightened or brilliant, and of course those who are the most enlightened are called brilliant people.
well, it comes from Lucifer.
Well,
what we're really talking about here is Lucifer, the fallen angel, and they have picked up on this, the Illuminati. And if you take a look at some of the Chevys now, they're called the Lumen, and they have the horns going up in the back of the vehicle, very subtly telling us that something is coming down by the year 2000.
Yes. Well, as I was saying, it implies those who hold the light, the enlightened ones, and they sent us a statue, as a matter of fact. Those ancient Illuminatis sent us a statue called the Statue of Liberty. It's holding the torch of illumination, which is the Promethean torch of Freemasonry. And if you go to the Statue of Liberty, you'll see a bronze plaque inside saying that this was given to the government of America by the French Grand Orient Temple Masons. And it is a symbol of Grand Orient Freemasonry in America, the holder of the light. And that's exactly the same torch that is carried during the Olympics. It is the torch of Prometheus.
It's not the torch of freedom.
No, it's not the torch of freedom.
Of the Illuminati.
Illumination.
So essentially, in a nutshell then, Jordan, these men whom we tend to call or group in an organization called the Illuminati. It's a loose-knit but tightly secretive organization.
Well, operating through the Council on Foreign Relations, through the Trilateral Commission, through the Club of Rome, through Global 2000, which wants to reduce the population of the planet by, 25%. 25, that's 1,250,000,000 people have to be exterminated by the year 2000.
Well, they can do that.
So essentially, this
Illuminati
then is the group of men who control not only all the money on the planet through all the world banks and the Federal Reserve and so on, but they control essentially all the governments. And so these men are planning to bring about a global form of government that's unique in all history. It's a total enslaving system of world communism and fascism, controlled by a hierarchy in Europe that Anthony calls what? The oligarchy.
Well, no, I call it the evil-archy.
The evil-archy.
The oligarchy of evil.
So these men are satanically inspired, and of course we get that term from the Bible, which means the devil. They're satanically inspired to bring about a global form of government to every nation on earth.
I wanted to add also that on the back of the Liberty dime, on the back of the old dime in America, there was the fasci, which you look in the encyclopedia or dictionary, you look at the word fascism, you'll see that the symbol for world fascism was a bundle of sticks, a bundle of rods with a hatchet head. That was on the back of the
Well, you see that
dime.
on each side of the speaker's podium at Congress.
Oh, absolutely.
So they have the fasci on each side.
Absolutely, and it's also the symbol for the United States Senate is the fasci. But the point I want to make is that that was on the old dime. Now on the new dimes, you will see it has been transplanted a torch instead of the old fasci, because fascism was used at one time to prepare the world for the New World Order. Now the New World Order is in place. That's why on the dollar bill it says Novus Ordo Seclorum is New Order of the World, but at the top of the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill is Annuit Coeptus, which means our enterprise or our project has been crowned with success. So the point I want to make is that on the back of the American dime today, anyone can look at the back of the dime and see the torch of illumination, which is carried in the Olympics, which is the torch that the Statue of Liberty carries. It is the torch of the Illuminati, who are illuminated.
But what we need to do is explain this term New World Order, because do you realize how few people out there have actually heard George Bush and others use this occultic phrase that we're talking about, the New World Order? George Bush said it well over 200 times, and if you ask the average person on the street if they even heard it once, they'll answer no.
When Hitler talked about a 1,000-year Reich, and Bush talks about 1,000 points of light, there's more than just a small similarity. They are one and the same. We're talking about a fourth Reich of the rich, and that's what we're talking about with the New World Order. They want it all. And that fiat funding money that we use isn't money at all. It's debt in the privately owned Federal Reserve. Well, the privately owned Federal Reserve is neither federal nor reserve. It's private.
That's right.
A private banking institution which is draining us. It's like America is an invalid in the hospital and dying, and they're putting up an IV bleed to bleed us of the remaining blood that we have to bring us down to the very bottom.
That's absolutely correct, Anthony. And since you brought up the Federal Reserve, let's look at the back of our dollar bill and analyze the symbol of the Illuminati. That's what this is, folks. It's also a Masonic symbol, but it's the symbol of the Illuminati, which controls, as Anthony said, all your money through the Federal Reserve, all the U.S. government money, and through other world banks, all the world's money. But this is their symbol, and this is basically the all-seeing eye of Lucifer, Satan, the devil. And what this inscription means here is announcing the birth of the satanic New World Order government. And Jordan, when was this placed on our dollar bill and by whom, and what was the story?
Well, it was placed in 1934, 35, I think it was, originally on the dollar bill. But what I wanted to draw attention to is the fact that it's an Egyptian pyramid. And you had better look at the idea of why an Egyptian pyramid is on an American dollar bill.
Well, it's a symbol of slavery, Jordan, because that pyramid was put together with slave labor. And on our dollar bill, this is the reverse seal. And if we take a look at the schematic of Washington, D.C., we see the layout.
Right, but it was also one of the greatest bricklaying projects the world has ever known. And bricklayers are referred to as brick masons, so it is a symbol of the Masonic orders of the world.
That makes sense.
And it is a very powerful symbol that has been used by the ancient secret societies, and I am here to tell you that that pyramid called Cheops Pyramid is a very important symbol to the world Illuminati.
And they're constructing the Illuminati Luxor up in Las Vegas.
No, I understand.
On Las Vegas Boulevard. I was up there with our cameraman here, and
is that a new hotel in Las Vegas?
A new hotel, 33 stories. I mean, with the capstone.
What's the significance of 33, Anthony?
Well, I think Jordan would be better able to answer
when
that.
we get into numerology, that is a whole interesting subject of how numbers are used by the ancient world. I mean, 13 is an unlucky number, we're told.
It's a satanic number.
Well, but it's called an unlucky number because originally it dealt with Jesus and his 12. Jesus and the 12 make the 13, upon which a new order of life would be established on earth. The conspirators have then seized upon this term of the 13, Jesus plus the 12, and have begun to build on that a new world order. Something I wanted to bring out about this new world order, because we said we wanted to explain it. Let me make this point, that Europe is referred to as the old world, and anything coming from Europe is old world. When you understand that Europe dominated the world for almost 1,600 years, and the Vatican dominated Europe. The Vatican dominated the old world order. Those banking families that were the Roman Catholic banking families of Europe were the powers of the world. They dominated the world. With the coming of America, America becomes known as the New World. Remember Columbus discovering the New World. When we hear the word New World Order, we're talking about a fraternal order of power, religion, money, operating out of the New World, America.
But a satanic, occultic, evil form of power.
The big picture, they want it all. They want to enslave your child, your wife, your mother. There isn't anything that you ever had. There isn't anything that you own. There isn't any right that you possess that they're not planning on taking away. They want it all. You've got a choice. You can join in this fight, or you can die as a slave.
When George Bush used this term, he used several other terms that went along with this term, New World Order. He also said 1,000 points of light. He used another term, New Age, another term, peace and safety. Jordan, who else in history has used this terminology?
Well, of course, all of the despots of history have used similar terminology, and it's always been the same concept of a total world domination. Go back to Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon, talking about how he had gathered all the peoples under him and how impressed he was with himself. You go down the line, and all of the great dictators and tyrants of the world have always dreamed of taking over the world, but everyone tried it the wrong way. Everyone has tried to take over the world with military, and everyone has discovered that military will not work. You cannot police and militarize enough to take over the world. So the Illuminati in 1776 developed a whole new concept of how to pull this project off. Instead of trying to force people into a new order or a totalitarian dictatorship under military, which you cannot do because people are always going to rebel at that, the idea was developed by Adam Weishaupt to create enough violence and create enough chaos and enough bloodshed to frighten the world, so that the entire world of mankind would one day come to the conclusion that there's too much bloodshed, too much crime, and there's just no possible way for the human race to exist unless we come together and pool our resources, and all of us accept one government and one order, and we will all live together in peaceful, happy, under one family, and nothing could be further from the truth that the chaos, that is being developed today is being developed purposely to cause us to be frightened into accepting, as a remedy, a new order of the world, which will be a total dictatorship of the earth.
Ordo ab chaos. Order, a new world order, through chaos. A crisis creation. In Los Angeles, we find last year that the city was aflame. I took a look out across the city and I saw literally 3,000 to 4,000 fires going concurrently. It looked like an atomic bomb had hit it. An atomic bomb? Well, was it by design? Was it planned that way? Roosevelt said in politics, nothing happens by accident. If it happens, it was planned that way. And we're going to have it again. Oh yes. By design? No question about it. What is the purpose? A new world order. That's what we're telling you. Now you can wake up or you can stay asleep. If you stay asleep, you're going to die in your sleep. If you wake up in time, we might have a chance of turning this thing around.
The average American is really good-hearted. They're basically honest people. They're paying their taxes. They're working every day. They're responsible.
Terry,
I don't understand why somebody want to create chaos.
The American people are sheeple. In fact, there was a statement made by H.L. Mencken. He said, one can never underestimate the intelligence of the American people. Am I talking about you? Well, if you're watching this program, there's a reason that you hung in there. But we've got the message that you're not going to hear on the major networks. That's what Millennium 2000 is all about.
It's only taking these men and myself
32
years. And Jordan, how many?
35.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's taken these two men that number of years to really understand this. I've only been in this for the last 7 years. And I've studied a lot of material from around the world. And in that regard, we may want to look at a number of publications that you can get at any number of bookstores are available that you can use to verify that we're not nutso. And one in particular is Pat Robertson. Everybody's heard of Pat Robertson. He's written a nice book called The New World Order, explaining essentially that this coming New World Order that Bush has been selling us and Bill Clinton has invoked is a system of global communism under the biblical Antichrist. So his book, The New World Order, is very good, but as well as that...
Well, wait a minute. Now, you say global communism. It's really commu-fascism or commu-Nazism.
That's correct.
And this is the government's control over the people, rather than the type of government that we instituted, which was the people's control over the government.
That's correct.
So I'm in favor of dissolving the United States of America, to abolish the United States, because we are all obligated to pay off the debt, the national debt, to these international banksters. Now that's the bottom line. That's
international
the bottom line is money. Yes, the banksters.
Okay, so now we have a number of other books here that confirm that we're not crazy, folks. And one of them is The World Order, in other words, The New World Order by Eustace Mullins, who spent over 40 years investigating the evil archy, as Anthony calls it. And a number of other books are as follows. Ralph Epperson's very good book, also entitled The New World Order, in which he says basically the same thing, that its New World Order is a system of communistic fascism under a global oligarchy that Anthony calls the evil archy. And,
yeah, well, Jordan, you have got a lot of expertise in this area.
Well, I have a point I think is very important to be made here, because when you made the statement that you wanted to see the dissolution of the United States and the collapse of the United States, so to speak, what we should explain to the audience is that there are terms which are used, legal terms. The word United States does not apply legally according to international maritime admiralty law. The word United States does not apply to the individual states in the Confederation. The word United States is a corporate logo. It's a corporate name. It's a corporation, and it is referred to in the international language. The United States government is a foreign corporation in relation to the states. It is a separate entity. That's why it is not. It sits in something called the District of Columbia. That's why we have a space shuttle called Columbia. It goes back to the old Columbian faction of the Illuminati, founded in this country in New York, the Empire State. So I'm saying that there is a corporation, and according to international maritime admiralty law, all corporations in the world must have a president and a vice president and a board of directors. That's why we have a president and a vice president. Legally speaking, he is not president of the various states according to international law. He is president of a corporation set up in something called the District of Columbia. It is a foreign corporation, and it is stated so in international law that the ruling party in Washington, D.C. is a foreign corporation that has a vice president, a president, and the Congress of the Senate serves as a board of directors. It's a company.
Now, Jordan, you know that the Secretary of the Treasury is not paid by the United States public.
No.
The Secretary of the Treasury is paid by whom?
Well, by the International Bank.
By the international bankers, right?
Absolutely.
The international banksters are paying the Secretary of the Treasury, so the Secretary of the Treasury is not working for us. He's working for them.
He never has.
So our monies, or that fiat funny money that we have, which is not money, it's debt-bearing notes. I mean, it's debt-bearing at point of origin. They print that for less than a penny a note. They loan it back to you for face value plus interest, and it could be a 10, a 50, a 100. It really doesn't make any difference. It's a way of controlling you. It's simply paper. It's debt. It's issued into circulation, and you are on the hook for it. So I say we have to dissolve this thing called the Federal Reserve. We have to dissolve this alliance.
And let's try to expose the folks out there to things they've never heard about. For example, let's try to show them a chart here which displays a number of people who are involved on putting this new world order, satanic, occultic, communistic, enslaving system together. This chart very clearly breaks down a number of people around the world, and essentially here, mostly in the United States, all the top level people in government, Bill Clinton on down, are involved in bringing about this occultic, enslaving new world order.
Well, like Warren Christopher, who is the Secretary of State, appointing Warren Christopher Secretary of State is like appointing Prince Machiavelli to be in charge of foreign affairs. I mean, this is absolutely insane. Remember the Council on Foreign Relations.
Nearly every top
Colin
official,
Powell.
exactly,
Chairman of the Joint Chief of Staffs. We've got Donna Shalala. Remember the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission. And Bill, what's his name? Bill Slick Willie.
Slick Willie.
Yeah. He is in charge of the president. Well, he's the president, but he's in charge of what? Well, actually, I don't think he's in charge of anything. I think he is simply a servant of this oligarchy. He praises an individual called Dr. Carol Quigley, who says, hey, what we have to have is a global government. And Bill Clinton admits that Dr. Carol Quigley is his mentor.
Now, folks, the reason you're not hearing this kind of truth on the media in general is because the media is controlled. What it essentially amounts to here is that all the top media officials are members of these clubs, Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, Bilderbergers, and so on, whose goal is to bring about this new world order. And the reason you're not hearing about this truth that we're showing you today is that the media is controlled. And if you think that's silly, then you just don't have your eyes open, and that's why we're here today, to help you open your eyes to see the truth. And we don't get this information from our own imagination. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the actual documents from these secretive organizations whose goal is to bring about this new world order. For example, this chart below the book was derived essentially from the membership list of this publication published by the Council on Foreign Relations, this occultic New World Order inclined organization. So we have all the information right here. Bill Clinton's in it.
Now this organization is at 58 East 68th Street, New York City. In fact, it's on the cover of the Illuminati documents we were talking about a quarter of a century ago. Now, if we take a look at the roster, we're going to find almost every important figurehead in every party. This isn't a Republican or Democratic or independent aligned group. This group controls all parties. We have a one-party system. It's a sham.
We have another document that is available from a sub-organization of the United Nations, in which they actually display their entire plan to bring about this new world order. In fact, this booklet is entitled A Design and Plan for a New World, meaning New World Order. In addition to that, folks, something that's really going to shock you is that they've already planned a global constitution for you. It's already been planned. They're already planning to do away with the Constitution of the United States under Presidential Executive Order number 11490, signed into law in 1969. You don't even know about it, do you? Well, we have that right here as well. But this book here is the Global Constitution Plan, and in fact, what does it say, Anthony? A Constitution for the Federation of Earth. And very clearly here in the preamble, they tell us right where they're coming from. They don't mince any bones here. Right here, they say they're planning a new world order and a new age. We have very carefully documented what we're saying here today. And if you think this is silly, then I just ask you to call this organization or write them and get your own copy of this. This stuff is not Cartoonville. This stuff is not your imagination.
Terry, that's why I brought out the one very major thing, the one very major point, that it is divided that we stand and united we fall. We have to oppose the United Nations. The Secretary General, the first Secretary General of the United Nations Organizational Conference, Alger Hiss. Who was he? Well, some people recall that he was a communist spy. I mean, that's what the rumor was. He went down for the count. He was imprisoned. Richard Nixon, member of the Council on Foreign Relations, and, well, Alger Hiss, a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, worked together for the same program. Hiss got off with a slap on the wrist. Nixon became president of the United States, and we are down for the count. We're getting down to the final hours. We're getting down to the end of the millennium and the end of freedom, as you now know it. We can incite a revelation, but it's going to take all of us, all of you, working together in concert. We have to develop a spirit, and that spirit must become contagious.
Got it. It's only vitamin.
Vitamin C, you know, like in oranges.
Joining with us, Ray Youngin, the author of For Many Shall Come in My Name. Is the New Age not, in fact, the Old Age, Ray?
Well, the New Age is a term that comes from astrology, which is, thousands of years old, and has been linked with occultism, from time immemorial.
Now, the Masonic magazine is entitled The New Age, or at least was entitled The New Age.
And still is.
And still is.
Mm-hmm.
Are the Satanists involved in the New Age movement? Is the New Age movement really sort of a cover for this whole Luciferian conspiracy, in your opinion?
I wouldn't say it's a cover. I would say it's the integral part of it. You know, the spiritual heart of what you're talking about. You know, a new world order. In fact, Alice Bailey, who coined the term New Age, who was a psychic and a channeler and an occultist, coined the term New Age and also coined the term New World Order. They both came from the same source. In her book, Externalization of the Hierarchy, she said that the New World Order would be based on the ancient wisdom or ancient occultism, which is where the term New Age came from.
Madame Helena Petrovna Blavatsky
Right.
wrote a magazine. I've had the bound works of that magazine, entitled Lucifer, Lucifer magazine. She had a lot of followers. Adolf Hitler was one. He certainly incorporated a lot of the occult symbology.
Well, let me comment on that real quickly.
The Third Reich.
Yeah, the term swastika, that is not a German term. The very name swastika is a Hindu word, and it's a symbol. Now, most people in the audience have probably never heard of this, but in occultism, it deals a lot with energies, with powers and forces, and these powers and forces come through something that are called chakras. And the word chakra is a Hindu word which means spinning vortex. Now, the swastika is a symbol of the chakras that are energized and working in unison. So the word swastika is a Hindu word, not a German word. And the word Aryan is a Hindu word. You know, it has nothing to do with ancient Germans. The Aryans were the Brahmin caste of Hinduism. So much of the terminology and concepts that Hitler used were from esoteric Hinduism and had nothing to do with, you know, ancient German culture or folklore at all.
Now, I've got a magazine which looks something like Time magazine. On the front cover, it talks about power places of the earth and a great meeting over in Egypt where they were going to have a channeling conference. And of course, at the turn of the century, at the year 2000, I believe all of the leaders are going to be at the base of the Great Pyramid. Is this correct, Jordan?
Yes, it was in the Los Angeles Times. I still have the article where all of the major leaders of the world governments are going to meet, and George Bush has an open invitation to be there. It's called the World Millennium Society, and they're going to meet there in 1999. And I guess one of the...
As in Millennium 2000.
Well, that's why one of the rock singers, I think it was Prince, that had the song Party Like It's 1999, because those who are in the know that something is coming for the year 2000, and most of the people are sound asleep and have no idea what's on its way. So that's why the song came out, Party Like It's 1999, because the LA Times had an article, all the major leaders of the world are going to meet at the base of the pyramid in 1999 to bring in what they call the Novus Ordo Seclorum, the new order of the world.
And could they not, in the year 2000, introduce a binary star system? And we're going to get into that in a latter portion of this program, but we have these individuals lined up to accept some sort of millennium, 1,000 points of light, like Hitler talked about a 1,000-year Reich.
Well, what we have in the New Age movement isn't just something from the top down. It's the masses are being conditioned also. It's not just, okay, most people, when they hear the term New Age, automatically they think of fringe religious groups. They think of Shirley MacLaine, they think of crystals, you know. But this goes far beyond, you know, individuals like that, personalities. Not just mainstream American culture, but mainstream European culture, Japanese culture is being redirected and restructured for a mystical experience of what they call higher consciousness, to be guided and directed in a mystical sense.
I did an interview with Benjamin Krem, who's the representative of Lord, let's see, I call him Lord Betraya. I talked about Adolf Hitler being influenced by Madame Blavatsky because he brought up Blavatsky, and I brought up Lucifer magazine, and he was very discombobulated. He really didn't exactly know where to go. I thought he would hang up on me, and the conversation was coming from England. Do you expect to see Lord Betraya mixed in with all of these so-called leaders of the world to usher in this millennium of Satan?
I talked to, when this first came out about Lord Maitreya, I called up the Alice Bailey organization, Lucis Trust, which, by the way, used to be Lucifer Publishing Company. I was up in Ojai, California, and saw one of their old books, and it said Lucifer Publishing Company in it. But I called up the Alice Bailey organization and talked to their head person, and he told me that Benjamin Creme was like a renegade, that his Lord Maitreya did not have the official sanction of the Alice Bailey organization.
This is the meditation center in Ojai?
Oh, New York City. By the way, Alice Bailey's group was in the United Nations Plaza in New York City. I had a chance to, a few years ago, I had a chance to talk to Benjamin Creme's top person in the San Francisco Bay Area, and she told me that most New Agers had a wait-and-see attitude about Maitreya. They didn't reject him outright, but they didn't accept him openly. They had kind of a, open mind about
it. Wasn't Krishnamurti supposed to be the...
yeah, Krishnamurti was, the Theosophical Society's world teacher, world messiah back in the 20s, but somehow he became disillusioned and renounced it.
And the Baha'i faith comes from Theosophy.
Well,
that's correct.
There's a connection there.
And if we take a look at the only accepted religion in the United Nations, and it's Baha'i.
Yeah,
we take a look at the meditation room in the United Nations, we see the Illuminati pyramid.
Well, I'm seeing this in organized religion, in the Roman Catholic Church, and the mainline Protestant churches. Okay, these are the areas that are being affected by the New Age movement: business, health, popular psychology, and mainline religion.
Well, you're saying that the mainline Christian religions in this country are influenced, or heavily influenced by,
like the Presbyterian Church USA, which is the major Presbyterian body, put out a booklet saying that they believe that God is speaking through the New Age movement, and that the mainline Protestants should have ears to listen. The thing is that American society, people listening to this are not going to be able to escape the influence of this mystical element of the New Age movement. They may think that, like for instance, this, I talked to this waitress one time at a coffee shop I frequented, and she said, well, she kind of dismissed what I was saying. Then she took classes at a local community college, and her instructor started to bring her into this mystical aspect. And she came to me and she said, I never thought in a million years I'd ever come up against this. She thought you'd have to go to some weird cult, in some remote part of the country to, become influenced by this. But she, found it right in her own community college. And another student who went to the same community college said that every fourth or fifth instructor in this school was a New Ager. Somebody who was pushing this.
Jordan, you were going to expand on it.
Yes, I think it's an appropriate time for me to add this. That in the old Celtic Druid occultism of ancient England, from which we have gotten about 95% of our mysticism in America has come from the old ancient English Celtic magicians. We always see pictures of
we're talking about Stonehenge, right?
Yeah, Stonehenge, right. Merlin the magician with his magic wands, and all the magicians always have their magic wands. Magic wands were always made out of holly wood. And holly wood has been used for many years to manipulate your thinking, to explain mystical subjects to you, and to prepare you to accept certain mystical premises. A classic example, and I'm not in any way belittling the work, but it's very important to understand Steven Spielberg and George Lucas's work with the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, because you can't understand the Last Crusade if you don't understand the First Crusade. And if you understand that the Raiders of the Lost Ark, who was the Raiders of the Lost Ark fighting against? It was the Nazis. Interesting too, in the Star Wars, according to the Masonic reference works that you can get in any library, the Freemasonic Orders of Europe said that there was a little ideologue, a little spiritual entity that gave the knowledge to what the Masons call our hidden masters. That's what Freemasonry refers to, those who lead world Freemasonry. They don't know who they are. No Freemason knows who the actual leaders of the world organization are. They call them our hidden masters. Well, according to the reference works, there is a little spiritual entity that guides the world Freemasonry, and they call him Yoda. And in the reference works, you'll see this little creature with the pointed ears, and he's called Yoda. Yoda goes back to Judah, or Judah, which goes back into British Israel World Freemasonry, going back to the time of the founding of England, and that's why they're today called British. The British, it's a very big difference between being English and British. Brit is Hebrew for contract or covenant, and ish means man in Hebrew. Therefore, British is the covenant man or man of the new covenant.
So we're talking about Star Wars.
So we're talking about Star Wars. We're talking about
the evil empire.
The Empire Strikes Back. And with the Empire striking back, New York is the Empire State. We're talking about the new empire of New World, America, striking back at Europe in 2 world wars to overthrow the old Roman dynasties in Europe to take over the world. So what we're saying here is that there is a war going on between gangs to see who's going to ultimately be on the top of the pyramid.
And in the new Indiana Jones, the young Indiana Jones movie, just last week, we saw a fella coming up, and he's named Krishnamurti.
Yeah, I saw that.
You saw that?
That was, well, usually New Ageism in the media is somewhat
but I mean, they're really pushing it hard and heavy right now.
In that segment, they really came out of the closet, so to speak, out in the open, and they really pushed the idea that everybody is divine and God is within everybody, and that meditation, they even had meditation in there. Remember that segment where young Krishnamurti was meditating with his guru? They were even promoting the idea that all religions are basically the same.
Now, Annie Besant was the co-editor of Lucifer magazine.
Yeah. And she was portrayed as being the heroine. Okay, you remember?
Right.
There was a Christian in there. Remember the governess or the tutor?
Yes.
And in the end,
she was converted.
In the end, she was converted to the. Remember, she was crying. She was converted to the view.
She saw the light.
She saw the light that. God is within everybody, and that all humanity is divine. So that's a good example of Hollywood being used to convey metaphysical.
In the Disney movies, do we see mysticism and the occult and the witches and Merlin and all of that?
But the media is more or less a softening up vehicle. What I focused on is the heavy artillery. You know, that counseling is being transformed and redirected toward that. You know, people have problems because they need a spiritual awakening. You know, in other words, you're dysfunctional because you're operating out of your lower self. You need to operate out of your higher self or your God self.
Now, for many shall come in my name. How mainstream America is accepting the ancient wisdom.
Yeah, Jesus,
so this isn't really ancient wisdom, but this is ancient
occultism.
Warlocks.
Right, occultism.
And witches,
and
right?
Jesus Christ predicted this when his disciples asked him, what shall be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? The first thing he said was, take care that no man deceive you. Take care that no man deceive you because, or for...
But aren't Christians by the millions being deceived with this?
Millions of people are being deceived. In the same chapter, Christ says that if it were possible, even the elect would be deceived. But since they're the elect, since they're, you know, truly spiritually regenerated, they would understand what's going on and they wouldn't be deceived.
Ray Youngin, what do you expect to accomplish with your book? I mean, people don't put together books unless they have a goal in mind. What's yours?
Well, the Apostle Paul in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 says that true Christians, this would come upon the world like a thief in the night, unsuspectedly. And he said, true Christians, O brethren, are not in darkness, that that day should overtake them as a thief, you know, like the others. So he said that watch for the signs, you know, watch for what's going on around you, and using the Bible as a standard, you can see what's really going to take place or what's going to happen.
Now, Benjamin Creme said that in his book, Maitreya's mission, and this is he names a list of initiates here, and some of the Maitreya's converts. I take a look here on page 381, Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler, one of the world's and then right underneath, Ho Chi Minh. And then we have, oh my God, I mean, it's just, and that's just some of the good guys, folks. How can the people buy? Well, the people won't buy into it. You're not gonna buy into this New Age mystical,
well, under the guise
la stuff. If you understand this, if you know about it,
they wouldn't buy into it as a religious phenomenon. In other words, if some cult member tried to sway them, they wouldn't buy into it. But they would buy into it under the guise of health, under the guise of counseling, under the guise of their own. Matthew Fox, a New Age theologian, says that people are not going to wake up outside of their own traditions, outside of their own religious framework. That's why the mainstream denominations are being so inundated right now with things like centering prayer, you know, mystical.
Well, I mean, he has Mao Zedong, and Mao Zedong is, well, listed in the Book of World Records as the most ruthless mass murderer of all time. And he's one of the initiates of Lord Maitreya. And then we find Lord Maitreya, or Maitreya, and the Theosophical Society. And like I said, I had the Lucifer magazine published, the published works of it, in my hand. And at the bottom it said published by the Lucifer Trust, and you made mention that it was now called the Lucis Trust. And at the bottom of the United Nations literature, we find what? Published by the Lucis Trust. I mean, it all makes a great deal of sense, and if you take a look at "For many shall come in my name," you're going to be able to put it together. You take a look at Maitreya's mission, you're going to be able to put it together, by Benjamin Creme. Now, I'm not really suggesting that you go out and donate to the Benjamin Creme Society, because this guy, to me, is ruthless. I'm getting some of the information, but Jordan, you're going through reams and reams of research material, and does this come together for you?
Well, actually, I had about 135 bank boxes in storage of nothing but documents, pictures, letters, correspondence, and photocopies galore. As I said, I've been doing this for 35 years. There is so much more that needs to be said about this subject that we can never possibly get into, but there is something I really feel is necessary to bring out. We're not talking about something that's entertaining or sensational. We're talking about your government, where you live, your country, your freedoms.
Right.
And what we're talking about here is things which you see every day. Like someone said a long time ago, many will look with their eyes but not see, and listen with their ears but not hear. And that's us. That is this country. We have been looking at things all along and never realizing the significance of the occult emblems that we're seeing today.
Okay. We're talking about a global government that's in existence right now. We're not talking about a nation that is going, we're talking about a nation that is gone. We do not control the government of the United States of America. The United States of America is controlled by this evilarchy. They control the money system, they control the State Department, they control the presidency. And if you take a look at the fasci on each side of the Speaker's podium in the Senate, you're going to find that we have a new world order in place. What do we have to do? Incite a revelation to avoid a revolution? Or wait for the second coming? The choice is up to you.
As we near the end of this decade and the 20th century, we find that psychics such as Nostradamus and Edgar Cayce predicted the occurrence of cataclysmic events before the year 2000. Jesus Christ also prophesied that wars and rumors of wars would increase. Nation would rise up against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Famines, pestilence, and earthquakes would occur with ever-increasing frequency. The earth itself would become as a woman writhing in the agony of childbirth. Are we headed for what the Bible describes as Armageddon? Is the end of the world at hand? Or rather, is mankind on the brink of a new age of spiritual power and enlightenment, a new world order? Stay tuned as we cover these topics on Millennium 2000.
Communism is not a creation of the masses to overthrow the banking establishment. The banking establishment is, well, it has been set up to overthrow and enslave the masses. The privately owned Federal Reserve is just that. It's private. It's not owned by you. The national debt is to the international banksters. Communism was never, well, run from the United States. Or was it? Well, you got to stop and think about that for a moment. And when you really find out what's going down, you really find out what's going down at the bottom line, you'll discover that communism was never run from Moscow, Hanoi, or Peking. It was run from London, New York, and Washington, D.C. On the backside of the dollar bill, you'll find the Illuminati pyramid, Annuit Septus, Novus Ordo Seclorum, the New World Order. What is all that about? I'm going to ask Jordan Maxwell. Jordan?
Yes, I will use this one I think would be better for. The Novus, let's start with the Annuit Coeptus. Annuit Coeptus is Latin, meaning our enterprise or our project is now a success or has been crowned with success. So then you say, well, your project is now crowned with success. What is the project? Novus Ordo Seclorum, which is novus, meaning new, ordo, order, the new order. Seclorium is the word secular in Latin, meaning the world, the new order of the world. You will notice that there are 13 layers in the pyramid. There are 13 letters in Annuit Coeptus. There are 13 stars above the head of the eagle. There are 13 berries and 13 leaves. There are 13 arrows. There are 13 stripes. Everything is done in sequence of 13 except the wings, which are 32 and 33 for the 32nd degree and 33rd degree of Freemasonry. The 13 is said to be an unlucky number because it represents originally Jesus and the 12, because Jesus and the 12 are the basis for a new order of the world. And so this has been borrowed and used, and I think very cleverly. So it's an unlucky number, we're told, because you're not supposed to use it. To show you how this symbolism on the dollar bill is there's quite a bit of symbolism on the dollar bill here. I want to draw your attention to the right-hand side of the $1 bill at the top on the one. You'll see at the top, right here on the little curvature, if you look very closely, you will see an owl that you can. It is used as a symbol because it sees things in the dark. The little owl on the symbol on the dollar bill is to symbolize something the Bohemian Society, which is incidentally meeting this month up in San Francisco. The owl is an occult symbol used by the Bohemian Society and the Illuminati in general because it symbolizes that you can. It is used as a symbol because it sees things in the dark, and that's why it's wise, implying that our political leaders are seeing things in the dark. They are aware of many dark things which are going on, and that's why they're wise, and you're not. So that's why they are the owls on the dollar
It's
bill.
important to bring up this particular point. The Bohemian Grove, and this is where all of the fellas meet and run around it in the forest nude, is where this new counsel for the President of the United States goes when he is on vacation. And his name is?
Yeah, well, all the presidents are
No,
there.
I'm talking about the new so-called Republican advisor of to the President of the United States. And of course we found individuals like Ronald Reagan, Gerald Ford, Carter, all dressed in black robes, hooded robes, looking up and worshiping what?
The owl. The owl in front of a bonfire, a large bonfire. And incidentally, we have pictures of all of the American presidents. This has appeared in 3 different magazines, which I have color pictures of. All the American presidents standing around the bonfire in capes and pointed hats, like the Ku Klux Klan type of regalia.
Well, I'm a little confused,
yes.
and maybe others are out there. Look, what is this Bohemian Society? Where are they located, and are they another subgroup of the Skull and Bones, the Illuminati, the Bilderbergers? I mean, all these other cults, they're just another subgroup then, right?
Yes, but this is a social group. This is a purely a social get-together that they say they do not express business or discuss business.
Well, wait a minute, I don't think so. At a social group, you don't generally stand out in in the woods, dressed
in Ku Klux
Klan outfits, you know, worshiping the owl.
Yeah, in front of a bonfire. But there's a reason for that, because the fire is the fire of illumination. The fire is
of the Illuminati.
Of the Illuminati, of course.
And we're talking about Ronald Reagan, who so many the conservatives supported. They used to call him Red Ronnie.
Absolutely. Ronald Reagan is a member of this organization, just as, and incidentally, in their own publication, they say that the reason they are called the Bohemian Society, because a Bohemian is someone, I'm roughly paraphrasing, someone who does not live by the same morals and ethics that the populace does. And so they're saying that the people who lead this country meet in private because they don't live by the same morals and ethics you do. They have a whole different standard of behavior than you do.
Now, Ronald Reagan was a member of the United World Federalists for 13 years. He wanted to bring about a new world order upon the ashes of American sovereignty. Is it possible that you haven't got the full message about Red Ronnie? In fact, Red Ronnie, that's not in my terms. That's what they called him in Hollywood. A member of the American Veterans Committee, twice cited as an instrument of the Soviet Union. He was the first individual in the band, well, speaker, major speaker, personality at the Hollywood Legion Stadium to ban the bomb. He was developed. He put on a mask, and I think it's time that we take off that particular mask.
So these Bohemians, they meet, what, once a year up in San Francisco?
For the last 2 weeks of July, from July 15th to the end of July, they meet for 2 weeks every year.
For 2 solid, continuous weeks?
For 2 solid weeks. They meet in conclave, and some of the most important movie stars, national leaders from around the world, and they say it's the only place that that enemies, so-called enemies on both sides of a war, can meet quietly behind the scenes and be friends.
So they go out for this 2-week period of bonding and socializing.
Socializing and chit-chatting and getting together to decide what war they're going to have next time and who's going to be the enemy and who will be the good guy. And so,
Jordan, we have pictures.
And remember, war is good business.
Now we have pictures with the president with his hand stretched out, holding a red rose.
But I have about 15 major color pictures of communist leaders throughout the world holding a red rose in their hand. And these are from newspapers and magazines. I began to pick up on this because someone alerted me to it, that the symbol of the red rose implies not only socialism and communism, but a secret society operating behind socialism and communism that uses a red rose.
This way out Willie holding the rose. We find Khrushchev, we find
all the communist
Brezhnev,
leaders,
all the communist leaders, and then we find the President of the United States over in his early years leading anti-American demonstrations in the Soviet Union.
Well, I know, but I'm saying that it's not enough to say these things. You really must show the pictures so that people will see that what we're talking about here are symbols and emblems.
Well, even Hitler used red and black, didn't he?
Yes, he certainly did.
And he said that Nazism is similar to socialism, didn't he?
Well, no, Nazi means National Socialist. National Socialist means Nazi. Benito Mussolini was, before he founded the fascist party, was associated with the Communist Party. In fact, Adolf Hitler, on February 5th, I think it was 1941, he said basically National Socialism and Marxism are the same. The whole of National Socialism is based on it.
That's interesting, because here we have Gorbachev very frequently using the term New World Order, and he says it's going to bring about a new world community, a new kind of civilization, in fact, quote unquote. And then we had Hitler using the same term, we had Bush using the same term.
August 23rd, 1939. What are the fellas doing here? They are putting together an agreement, the Commun-Nazi Peace Pact, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Peace Pact, the Hitler-Stalin Pact. They joined together, and then on September 1st, 1939, what do? They were talking about the invasion of Poland. And they did, in fact, invade Poland and rape and ravage that particular nation.
Now, let me bring up this point, that if you'll remember that Mussolini was an ally of Adolf Hitler, and that Adolf Hitler signed 2 concordant contracts with the Vatican. The Pope Pius XII signed 2 contracts with Adolf Hitler, that he would throw full Catholic support in Europe behind the new regime of Adolf Hitler if Hitler upon winning the World War, would establish the Roman Catholic Church as the only legitimate religion of the world under the new order of the world. So there was a contract
in
signed.
Dr. Anthony Sutton's book, Wall Street and the Rise of Hitler, we find that the Bush family was heavily involved in financing Hitler, and the Kennedy family as well.
Right. Now the point is, I want to continue with this. When you understand, we're talking about the Vatican, we're talking about Hitler and Mussolini, we're talking about the fascists of Europe in war with America and England. Now we're talking about the Empire Strikes Back, and as we said in the last program, New York is the Empire State. That's why you have Steven Spielberg and George Lucas movies talking about the Lost Ark, the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Who was that going for the Lost Ark with Indiana Jones but Adolf Hitler? And in The Last Crusade, it's Adolf Hitler again. So what we're
Hollywood is
talking about
making
here,
pictures not for the profit, but for the propaganda.
for the propaganda.
Yes.
But you see, they know what they're saying, and as I brought out to you before, the old magic practicing priest of England, the old Celtic priest, used to work their magic like Merlin the magician with his magic wand, and magic wands were always made out of holly wood. So I'm saying that Hollywood has been used by, and that's why motion picture stars are called movie stars, because in the Bible, stars were referred to as lesser illuminaries. So these lesser illuminaries are working for the big Illuminati. So the big Illuminati are using the lesser Illuminati. The lesser illuminaries are just stars.
So what you're saying, Jordan, is most of us are asleep.
We're totally
very
asleep.
subtly being conditioned by a number of occultic organizations, occultic attacks, occultic conspirators to condition us into this.
Well, we are being awakened, really, to the New World Order. You take a look in like Time magazine. I'm going to bring it out again. You say you want a revolution, but are we willing to pay the price? They're talking. We don't want a revolution. We want a revelation. They say, who pays for Yasser Arafat? You know who pays for Yasser Arafat? Who gets Yasser Arafat's fat out of the fire? The United States government came over there to Lebanon when his back was against the sea. He would have been wiped out by the Israeli army. And the United States says no, 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 because they want to control this particular conflict. They brought up U.S. troops and U.S. ships to get Yasser Arafat's fat out of the fire and bring him over to Libya, because they wanted him alive, because they want a controlled conflict. The same thing is happening in South Central Los Angeles. The same thing is happening in major cities throughout the United States and throughout the world. This is conflict control, and the symbols are everywhere.
Let me explain to the audience something very simple in relation to what you're saying. In Africa, and the big game hunters in Africa for many years used to, when you go out to hunt the big game, you wouldn't go into the jungle to look for the big game. You would hire many of the natives to go out with cans and bottles and surround about a 10-mile circle out in front of you and work in, beating cans and bottles and screaming and frightening your prey, the lion or the animal that you're looking for, and he's your prey, and you keep closing in until finally whatever is out there comes out into the open and he's a sitting duck. That is precisely what has been happening for the last 100 years. The Illuminati have been purposely organizing, directing, and financing wars, revolutions, violence and bloodshed, so that it will sufficiently impress and frighten the world of humanity into accepting a new order, a new police state that will finally put down all the law and order, the disorder in the world. And it is the oldest trick in the book. Our greatest enemy is not in a crack house, it's in the White House. It's not in a bar room, it's in the boardrooms. And so the point I'm making is that we are being manipulated from the very top, and we need to wake up and find out that America is not the land of the free and the home of the brave, because we're not free we darn sure ain't brave.
Any longer.
Well, it's time to wake the town and tell the sheeple. We are being led like sheep to the slaughter. I don't know if you've ever seen sheep go to the slaughter, but they are generally led by a Judas goat. The Judas goat will bring them all the way up the ramp, and right before they drop the trap on the sheep, the Judas goat steps to the side.
And that's why they have their offspring, these Illuminati refer to their offspring in their publications as their children, their offspring. They refer to your offspring as kids. You have kids because you're just like a goat.
Sheeple.
You're sheeple. That's why you have kids.
And your children are going to be slaughtered if you go along with the program. There's no question about it. They're going to be identified. They're going to be marked. Hillary, how much clout? Well, Hillary has brought in Janet Reno. I keep thinking of Janet Reno as sort of Hyman Himmler in drag.
Yeah.
There was a war waged on a Christian church in Waco. This is the first time there's been an armed military assault against the United States people since the Civil War.
And we ate it, didn't we?
Yeah,
and the people sat back and said, oh, well, God, we got to get rid of that fanatic, those crazies out there.
Yeah,
they said, in the name of God, Time magazine, what happens when believers embrace the dark side of faith? Now, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, Koresh never went in and attacked the ATF. He had never attacked the government attacked them.
Well, there appears to be no substantiation for it. Those are allegations made by the government. But it's interesting.
And they gave the orders to slaughter. Reno gave the orders which came down from the president of the United States.
Well, the very first indictments were sealed. We still don't know what he's guilty of. No. They have sealed indictments, and we'll never know what he was supposedly guilty of.
Mass murder in America, and the sheeple. Oh,
and the people
they're looking up. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going down.
But you know, the ironic thing of this is that the government used the fact that allegedly Koresh had been perhaps molesting some children, and so they said, well, we have to save the children by going in and killing them all. Isn't that paradoxical?
With American tanks, as you see the flames that are going up right up on top there.
Right.
No question about it.
So, you know, we can't allow this abuse
they
to go
said
on.
David was shot in the head, yes,
right.
Not by himself, but by, see the flames that are going up right up on top there, not by himself, but by the ATF or agents from this multi-jurisdiction,
MJTF is Multi-Jurisdictional Task Force Police. MJTF, Multi-Jurisdictional
We're going to be taking a look at FEMA coming in.
In other words, a national police force.
Right. The Federal Emergency Management Agency. We're going to be taking a look at FEMA. No question about that. What is that? Well, that's one of the New World Order's military operations.
That's their Gestapo.
Yeah, and then followed by whom? The United Nations troops in your homes. I was at Westwood in Wilshire, in the city of Los Angeles, taking a look at the city, and it looked like an atomic bomb had hit it. It was laid to waste. 5,300 fires going on at the same time.
And that was nothing compared to
And we're talking about black helicopters flying over Georgia. What are they dropping? Incendiary devices? Is this a created crisis that's coming on?
Folks, there's something going on behind the scenes that you may not even be aware of because most of America is dead asleep.
And remember that this thing that happened in Los Angeles happened on May 1st.
Ah, May 1st. Day. The founding of the Order of the Illuminati.
And that's why in the military, when you're in trouble, you say it's a Mayday. A Mayday call means trouble. And there was trouble in Los Angeles on May Day, and it was not by chance.
Now, one very important thing. This Illuminati was put together in May 1st, 1776, but the cover of the Illuminati documents is that we find the exact same pyramid. The exact same pyramid that is on the back side of the $1 bill. And you get into Washington, D.C., and what do we see here? This is extremely important. You say, well, it couldn't possibly be that these individuals had control over that city? Over that city way back in the 1790s? But if you take a look, here is the Illuminati pyramid. The capital of the United States is at the top of the eye of the pyramid. You see the separation. And Jordan, go on and explain that.
Yes, the obelisk, you'll see the Egyptian obelisk here. The Egyptian obelisk points up to the top of the triangle or the top of the pyramid. We're talking about occultic forces. We're talking about the five-pointed pentagram, which was used by satanic worshippers for thousands of years. If you take the 5 points off of a five-pointed star or a pentagram, you have left in the middle a pentagon. That's why the United States has a pentagon. The pentagon is directed toward the North Star because according to the ancient Babylonians, that's where you gathered power from the gods of the North in war. We're talking about sex, drugs, rock and roll, violence. We're talking about a concerted effort to manipulate the human beings of this country into a new order and a new world, and the people are going along with it, docile, and have not the
And
faintest
it says
idea.
Novus Ordo Seclorum. That's on the
that
dollar
really
bill.
interests me. That the term seclorum. You said earlier that meant
Secular.
world. Now doesn't that secular really mean more than
Well, these
anything else?
people think of themselves as God, Terry.
Well, but
These are the new gods.
But secular, if you ask a minister what secular means, he'll say the secular world and we Christians, meaning that it's a world, a secular world, without the God that created us. Isn't that true?
Yes.
So what we're looking at is we're looking at a new God, a Luciferian God, a satanic God who will be the leader of the New World Order. So the New World Order is the New World Order without the old God of the Bible and with the new God, Lucifer, Satan.
Now,
And we
you
wanna
take a look
bring
at the
out-
pentagram.
We want to bring out one point here in relation to what he says. We're not talking about an evil genius somewhere in Bavaria. We're talking about America. Here is the New World Order. We are in the middle of the most diabolical, conspiratorial movement ever developed on the face of the earth, right here in America, in
And
Washington,
the
D.C.
pentagram is really the pentagon. And you take a look at the hand of the stalker, the Night Stalker. What is his name? Ramirez?
Yeah, Ramirez.
And the fellow went out there and ripped and raped and robbed.
He's not the only one.
And of course, no. And the First Church of Satan in San Francisco, Anton LaVey's group, they used the pentagram. And if we take a look at the map of Washington, D.C., here's the White House at the top of the pentagram, the same satanic seal on the First Church of Satan. The configuration was laid out, and of course we have the goat of Mendes, also from the all of the satanic rituals, and it goes right up to the White House.
And the skull and bones. For example, when Christ was murdered, he was murdered on the hill of what? Golgotha, which means what, literally?
Place of the skull.
Skull and bones, you see? And so since then, the pirates have had on their flag, all the satanic evil men in the world have always utilized the skull and bones, and I believe, it's my own personal interpretation, that it's to mock Christ for what they did to him at the hill.
The Illuminati came to the United States through a fraternity, a Faustian financial fraternity, in 1832, and if we take a look at this Faustian financial fraternity, we will see that we have the skull and bones, and we see a little 32 underneath the symbol. Now, George Bush was in there. William Buckley Jr., who would talk in very Edwardian tones. I asked Bill Buckley about his membership in the Skull and Bones in New Orleans. He got up and almost went running out of the room.
He refused to even comment.
George Bundy, I addressed this to George Bundy. He just came completely discombobulated on the stage. I wish I had a picture of that
And
event.
George Bush was asked one time, and he changed the subject.
Of course.
So
that's what it's all about.
People
We're talking about our national leaders.
But it's time that we get down to the bottom line, and we shall return with just that.
In this age of computers and microchips, science has finally given us the foolproof way to protect our pets. Advances in the field of microelectronics have made possible an entirely new method of identifying animals. No longer will pet owners have to anguish over lost pets. This fascinating system is based on the reading of radio frequencies from a minute microchip implanted in the animal. In the past 4 years, thousands of animals have been implanted with microchips. The conclusive results indicate that this form of identification is safe and successful to all species and can be applied to all ages of animals. In the world of microelectronics, high technology has offered to pet owners many great advancements in animal care. Electronic identification of pets using the microchip system provides a solution to the very grave concern facing many animal owners today, the need to recover a lost pet.
This free-flowing stretch of roadway could be a toll collection plaza. None of these drivers need stop to pay tolls, slow down, or hunt for change. But all tolls will be collected and violators will be cited. It all happens electronically in a system designed and developed in Orange County, California by Hughes Aircraft Company, a General Motors subsidiary. Toll booths, stop and start traffic, barriers. These are all familiar to anyone traveling on our nation's conventional toll roads. But Hughes has replaced all this with a sleek, unobtrusive gantry spanning the roadway. At the heart of the system are 3 communications antennas located on the leading face of the gantry. The antennas communicate with a transponder conveniently mounted on a vehicle's windshield. Ultimately, these transponders will be built into new cars. When a vehicle's transponder comes within range of the gantry, radio signals from the antennas trigger the transponder to identify itself. In response to the signal, the transponder selects a separate time slot and transmits its ID number to the antennas. The antennas receive the ID number and assign each vehicle to a separate time slot for any subsequent data transmissions. This process enables the reader antennas to simultaneously communicate with many vehicles in multiple lanes, and even while changing lanes. The antennas pass the data received to a computer which, through a process called angle of approach, combines the data from the 3 antennas to determine each vehicle transponder's exact location. With each succeeding transmission, the vehicle's position on the roadway is updated. In this manner, the system tracks every tagged vehicle, regardless of speed, lane changes, or if shadowed by another vehicle. It even tracks several tagged motorcycles sharing the same lane or collects a single toll from a vehicle containing several transponders. Data transmitted from the vehicle's transponder are sent to a host computer for billing or enforcement purposes. The violation enforcement system developed by Hughes employs a color camera mounted over each lane. The patented Hughes video image processing monitors each camera output and determines when the rear of a vehicle enters the camera's field of view. At that point, the camera captures an image of the vehicle's rear license plate and holds it in temporary storage. If the vehicle's tag is valid, its image is overwritten by the image of the next vehicle. But if the vehicle is determined to be a violator, its image is saved and forwarded to the Plaza computer. The Hughes toll collection system is fully redundant, so the failure of any individual component will never cause a lane closure or lost revenue. Hughes has assembled a world-class team to develop this state-of-the-art electronic toll collection system.
Adolf Hitler had a plan to identify all of those whom he considered to be enemies of the Third Reich. Well, there's another program coming up to identify all the people everywhere. Mandatory vaccination program. Hillary's talking about it. Adolf Hitler had implanted on the back of the arms of those individuals who were unacceptable, whom he considered to be useless eaters, a number. Some people call it the mark of the beast. The Jews, the gypsies, the gays, they were all earmarked for extermination. Christians, yes. And now, the year is 1993. Would you like to be the first on your block to be injected, to have this needle implanted into your child's hand, or maybe in the forehead? Are you beginning to feel like a number? How about the personal identification number, PIN, or the VIN? There's a new number for your car. When you go down the road, it sends out a signal. A signal when the scanner hits it. When you go through the next scanner, what happens? The next scanner? Well, it tells the Department of Motor Vehicles or the police that you've gone too fast. And you get a ticket. What, a ticket? Yes. Automatically, in the mail. Terry, your expertise is enormous in this area. And you've discovered that they have still a smaller chip to identify the people, just like they identify cattle.
That's right, Anthony. Few people are even aware that in Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles, the city council voted a little over a year ago to require that all pets leaving the dog pound, the animal shelter, receive one of these implantable identifying chips in the back of the neck. Whether you have a cat or a dog or whatever, if it gets lost in the city of Los Angeles, escapes from its owner, it's picked up by the pound, it'll be taken to the shelter, and before you can take it home, it must have been injected in the back of its neck with
They get a vaccination.
With an ID chip.
Now we're talking about a vaccination
Right.
program coming from Hillary Clinton, right?
Right.
And what is the difference between one of these transponders in the back of the hand or in the forehead and Adolf Hitler's mark at the back of the arm?
Well, of course,
there's no difference, is there?
That was a trial run, Anthony, for a new world order. He used the same term. That was just a trial run, a foreshadowing, a taste of what's really coming. But this is a much more sophisticated form of Luciferian control. In fact, when most people receive this, they'll think they've been enlightened and initiated into this glorious new world order. They'll have been deceived in thinking that it's a gold card, if you will, an American Express. The most elite mark of the new world order will be this injected.
Well, I mean, some people are going to say, well, look, my wife doesn't stand any chance of being, robbed. I mean, I can go into the ATM machine and simply go zap, and I can buy anything. I mean, we don't have to use currency anymore, right? I mean, it'd be simply a mark. You go into the market, you bring it to your hand over the scanner, and it automatically debits this money from your account. Oh, and the scanner, I mean, just like this, let's assume this was in the back of the hand, and Jordan, if you will just goes through the scanner, and then you can have a read on the back of the scanner. It'll tell you who you are, where you live, what vehicle you drive, if you're wanted by the police or any other Gestapo-ized agency. What are we going to have?
Well, now
we're going to have a total police state. This is going to make Adolf Hitler look like a Boy Scout. This out-Hitler's Hitler.
Yes.
This is the program.
Yes, but the deception is going to be so great, people won't think that it's evil.
What are we going to be so great?
Well,
what are you talking about? It is great.
It is great,
this is now.
I mean, at the point of implementation, when people eventually have to face receiving this, they're going to have been deceived so greatly that they'll actually think it's something good. In fact, the whole New Age movement, the New World Order crowd is telling people that the 666 mark of the beast is the most elite thing that could ever happen to them.
Now, it's an 18-digit number. We have the Social Security number, the SS number, and then we have an area code, so it'll tell you where you live, everything about you.
The new 9-digit postal zip code. You know, you have 5 digits, they're adding 4 spaced by a hyphen, and your Social Security number, which is also 9 digits. So 9-digit Social Security, 9-digit zip code gives a total of 18 digits, and they plan to divide those 18 into 3 separate 6s.
And all of the numbers are contained in a big place called the Beast. Where? Brussels?
The Beast is the nickname computer for the Euronet computer in Luxembourg. But there's even a larger one, more capable than anything the Beast could have ever done now, and that's in Culpeper, Virginia, the underground nuke-proof facility of the Federal Reserve, which we already explained is controlled by the Illuminati, is the Illuminati. And in Canterbury, Australia now, there's a master underground computer that's capable of controlling everything on Earth. So all these systems are now networked, including with the Euronet Beast.
And the Gannett Corporation is trying to get a message across to the people. I don't know if you've ever seen this picture. Feel like a number, take care. The cure for the Common Health Program. And of course, the Common Health Program, they would have all of your medical history, all of it, on this little scanner. You say, well, this is wonderful. And you'd see a number on the top of one's head. Well, I don't see one on yours, Terry. I mean, apparently you haven't made the decision to go with it.
Anthony, I like my hairdo better. But it's interesting that we're being conditioned, folks, and if you don't think so, just look on the billboards on the side of the freeway. This is one of them. And this was placed on the side of the freeway about 6 months ago. And it's supportive of a conditioning program to get you used to having things placed on your body, on your head specifically, and on your hand, and so on.
Well, if people think for one moment that individuals aren't being conditioned, you better start taking this seriously.
That's right.
Here we are. Feel like a number. Well, we are numbered.
And notice
from
at the
womb to tomb.
That's right. And notice at the top here, Anthony, where it says Gannett Outdoor Corporation. Gannett Corporation is a major media corporation. They control a number of things, and they are a major organization, major contributing organization into the Council on Foreign Relations. In other words, they're part of the Illuminati network, specifically regarding media events and media.
And you've got an article over here called The Cashless Society.
That's correct.
And of course, in Singapore, we already have the situation. No cash. Cashless society. It's ready to go.
And a cashless society is the most important facet, the most important controlling facet of this new world economic order. Remember now, we have three facets to this new world order enslaving government. We have the new world order, the political part of it. We have the new world economic order, which is the enslaving economic part of it in a cashless society. And as well as that, we have the religious order, meaning the New Age movement that we discussed previously. So this magazine now is a magazine published by another sub-organization of the Illuminati. The Futurist is a magazine designed to condition us to their plan that is coming. And in this one particular issue, you'll notice here that there's a symbol on the front. It looks like a dollar symbol, and you may not see that it's really an electronic circuit, meaning that the new money that's coming, and they say that here, is electronic money, not paper money, not coin money, but credits and debits. Electronic funds transfer in a cashless society, not just in the United States, but globally. Now notice on one of the prime articles here, it talks about a cash-free society. In other words, folks, there is a plan to take the entire globe cashless, according to information I've gleaned from research, by 1997 at the very latest.
Well, wait a minute. It's not quite free. I mean, you've got to give up your freedom. I mean, that's really what it's all about.
Yes.
Your freedom, and it's sort of like buy now, pay later.
That's right.
And then when you zip through, you can say, well, my child is 7F7D43202C.
That's right, and with that one number, they don't need your name, they don't need your address and everything else, because the computer banks have all that. All they need is your number, and that's why they're getting us so used to our Social Security number. And most of us are reluctant to kind of give it out. Well, not so much anymore.
In Revelation, is it 13? They talk, there's a statement. Do you remember it?
Revelation 13 is the chapter in the Bible that specifically states that just before the end of the world, as it were, the end of the age specifically according to the Bible, just at that time, approximately 3.5 years before the end of all things, according to Scripture, that a global dictator will come to power and lead the whole world into a new world order. Now, it doesn't use that phraseology, but it describes the concepts of a new world order. The Antichrist, this global dictator who will impose this 666 number.
Well, Hitler had charisma. He just didn't have all of the charm.
Well, he had a different kind of charisma, yeah, without charm, I guess.
You want to remember, too, that all presidents have speech writers. All politicians in this country have speech writers.
They had a teleprompter. I mean,
they have teleprompters. They have idiot boards.
With a teleprompter.
Because they're not speaking from the heart. The Bible talks about from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, from a man who is honest. These people are reading speeches by their masters who have written for them what they are to say and how they're to say it.
Well, we don't have teleprompters here today, but one thing that we do have is knowledge. And it is the knowledge that will set you free. You have to have the truth, because the truth will set you free. I did a tape with Dr. Robert Strecker called Mega Murder 2000. Does it fit in with the Millennium 2000? Yes, I think it does. There was a vaccination program started in Africa. What was it for? To end smallpox. Smallpox given to the black population. Is the black population considered to be useless eaters by this oligarchy? I think so. When the black population got the smallpox vaccine shots in Uganda, Senegal, and Zaire, they came down with AIDS. When the gays got the hepatitis B vaccine shots in gay bars throughout the country from the Public Health Service, they got a thing called AIDS. This is not by accident. This is by design. It was planned that way. It's mega murder. It's all out in, there's enough documentation to prove it 100 times over. Dr. Alan Cantwell, Dr. Eva Sneed, Dr. Robert Strecker, Dr. William Campbell Douglas. They're all saying the same thing, that it was genetically engineered. AIDS was genetically engineered with monies that were coming from you. Yes, for the bacteriological warfare experiments at Fort Detrick, Maryland.
Anthony,
These people are guilty of murder.
Let me add this point, that what is it? The Center for Disease Control, which is in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, has a government institution called the Center for Disease Control. Words are important. That it is not the Center for Disease Eradication, but the Center for Disease Control. It's like in California, we have something called the criminal justice system, not the American justice system, not the California justice system. We have a criminal justice system. Words are very important to the Illuminati. Center for Disease Control. We're wondering how these diseases have popped up in the American Indian population. In New Mexico, you had what was it, the other one in Chicago and Detroit, which was the Legionnaire's disease, AIDS. These things are manufactured purposely for a purpose. And so I'm saying that there is something organized and directed, and it's here in this country.
Well, Dr. Falalu Kane, who is the ambassador to the United States from Senegal, did a show with me and Dr. Strecker and his brother, Ted Strecker. 10 days later, Ted Strecker was murdered.
You know, that's a part of the Global 2000 plan to
people don't know what the Global 2000 plan is, so I want to get into that. Global 2000 plan, well, it is to reduce the population of the planet by 25% by the year 2000. 1,250,000,000 people. Now, how can that possibly happen? Dr. Bertrand Russell said that war thus far has not been successful. Perhaps bacteriologically successful in reducing the population.
In other words, it hasn't killed enough people.
Right.
That's right.
So perhaps bacteriological war, I mean, perhaps a disease could be created. In essence, this is what he was saying. His book, The Impact of Science on Society. His association, Illuminati.
Yes, and this is being brought home to us here in California by what we're calling the killer bees. These killer bees that are Africanized bees, we're told Africanized. If it's bad, it's from Africa. Africanized bees. The Los Angeles Times had a cover article in a newspaper, which I still have, said that the killer bees were developed by the CIA in Brazil, and that they were a part of a project that is being operated by the CIA in the Bahamas, in the Caribbean area, for genetic reconstruction of humans, genetic reconstruction of life forms, and that these killer bees are nothing more than a bunch of bees that got out from a laboratory in the CIA in Brazil. So if your family is killed by killer bees, remember, it's the CIA that designed them.
But the bottom line is that there are a lot of new diseases reoccurring now that we had previously thought were conquered. We had new strains of TB. We have new strains of virtually everything that's drug-resistant or drug-proof.
Well, I'm not worried about the old diseases. I'm worried about the ones that they create to bring down the population of the world. Because if they consider gays to be
undesirable,
well, not only just undesirable, but
a threat.
No, not really a threat. They simply want to exterminate them. But that they consider them to be useless eaters.
They need to be cleansed.
Useless eaters.
The same term that Hitler
to wash the society.
Anthony, let me spend a couple more minutes sharing with the folks this technology, because few people have heard of this, and I would like to share just another moment with them. You know, we can talk about deadly new diseases and infectious this and infectious that and an extermination program, and the average person just can't relate to that. What is the most common denominator that someone can relate to? Anything that affects their wallet, right?
Absolutely.
Affects their pocket. Well, this new world economic system is going to affect your pocket, so listen up, folks. There is a plan, and I have their actual document here, to bring about a new world economic order. And they say in this booklet, as published by the World Constitution and Parliament Association in Denver, as we mentioned, that's a sub-organization of the United Nations. And this reveals their plan to do away with cash and institute an entirely new cashless system of debits and credits, electronic funds transfer. They're going to call this new buck, if you will. It's going to be an electronic buck, but they're going to call it the Earth dollar. It's not going to be any paper money. It's not going to be coin money. It's going to be electronic money, a debit and a credit, but they're still going to call it an Earth dollar, so that it's something that everyone on the Earth will have. Instead of having a franc in France, it'll be an Earth dollar there as well.
But they've got to panic the people. They've got to bring about some sort of created crisis. They've got to create riots in the streets to bring in the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the United Nations.
Crash.
I've written a manifesto called the Free World Manifesto, which is in opposition to the New World Order, not calling for a United Nations, but rather a disunited nations, an alliance of free people, sovereign and independent. And you got the national identification card info right there.
Just another thing that's conditioning us. Here we have a Los Angeles Times newspaper article, rather recent one, June 17, 93. And this article says there's a new clash again over a national ID card. And let me read one specific thing here. It says, there is simply no way to enforce our existing laws without a new form of identification, and we suggest that it be a Social Security card with a photo, a fingerprint, and verifiable barcode. You see? So we showed you the barcode conditioning propaganda here earlier, and now they're saying it in the newspapers.
Well, Adolf Hitler would have loved this.
Yes. Oh,
he would have loved it. It's just, you were saying about, do you have family? How do you put it?
You have family in Berlin, do you?
And then about 1989, we see an article in a newspaper that's owned by Gannett Corporation. As we showed you earlier, the Gannett Corporation owns most of the media in the country. And here they have another propaganda mill item where it's titled Future Shocker Biochip. And this is what Anthony showed you earlier, a biochip. That's an injectable computer chip for the purpose of identifying.
Just like in Nazi Germany.
Well, better than Nazi.
Oh, the principle is it's identical to that of Adolf Hitler.
Just better technology.
And the 1938 gun registration legislation of Adolf Hitler is identical to the gun legislation that was passed in 1968 after the assassination of Robert Francis Kennedy.
But it was disguised. But
disguised, no, word for word, it's verbatim.
Yeah.
Verbatim, word for word.
But disguised in the sense that the average person is just not aware of that. They don't know their history well enough to understand that. But back to this article, this is very important, folks, because the Bible says that, that this final Antichrist-led system by a man whose number is 666, says he'll impose an economic mark in the back of our right hands or in our foreheads. And without this economic mark, literally the mark of the beast, it says, we'll not be able to buy or sell anything in the world economy. So not only do we have now all these occultic leaders...
I've got to interrupt you. You say we. Are you ready to accept this?
Well, those of us who reject it will be killed.
Well, or fight.
I'm not going to take it.
Well, I'm not going to fight it.
Of course.
I think it's possible that we can win this.
But Anthony, this is very important. Let me get to this, because this newspaper article, for the first time in 2,000 years, specifically discussing placing this purchasing computer chip in our hands. That's very biblically significant. So this would lend credence to the Bible. We really don't, most of we Christians really don't need that. But for people out there who don't believe that the Bible's true and that this New World Order is going to be a Hitlerian dictatorship under a global antichrist, well, here we have secular evidence, as it were, that the Bible's prophecies are about to be fulfilled. It says specifically here, a number could be assigned at birth and follow one throughout life, and most likely it will be implanted on the back of the right or left hand for convenience, so it'll be easy to scan at stores. And it could be used as a universal identification card that would eventually replace all present forms of credit cards, passports, driver's licenses, and that sort of thing. Folks, we have conditioning going on, and now look at this. We have another photo, another billboard of a picture of somebody's right hand okay, coming across a billboard. And guess what? Gannett Corporation, okay, is the same corporation that put up this sign, this billboard.
Your money is always within reach, and of course,
your right hand.
There's your right hand, and to the star
and
ATM network.
And a satanic pentagram star, a 5-pointed pentagram.
Well, that's just a coincidence.
It's just another coincidence,
just another
right?
coincidence,
And the Bible says you'll have access to your money if you have the mark in the right hand. And here is another very subtle spiritually conditioning item.
Now we have here Executive Order 11490. Assigning emergency preparedness functions to federal departments and agencies. In other words, surrendering all of our rights to a federal government. All of them? All of them. Are they going to hold anything back? No. They want it all. That's what we talked about. They want it all. There isn't anything that you've got that they're not planning on taking away. They want your children, your wife, your family, your home, everything. They want it all. And if we don't understand this, we've got to wake up. We have to incite a revelation to avoid a revolution. If we follow the other sheep, we will certainly be led to the slaughter. Never in the annals of human history has so few done so much so often to rape, rob, and ravish so many as the warlords and the warlocks of Wall Street and Washington. Jordan Maxwell, what can you say? 35 years of research. Jordan, in conclusion.
I would like to say that all we need to do is do what we've been doing in this country, and all the conspirators have to do is do what they've been doing, and their timetable for taking us over very soon will be concluded. If you understand that symbols and emblems and things that we see every day are like the letters of an alphabet, if you put them together, they tell a story. If you understand, wake up and understand that we are not in a benevolent government, that Plato said, the price good people pay for non-involvement in public affairs is to be ruled by evil men.
Terry Cook, you've got a tape, 666 Mark of the Beast. You did my radio show, Radio Free World. It's an excellent audio.
Thank you.
You've got a book, companion book that comes out, and I highly recommend it. When I say highly recommended, it is essential that this message gets across to the public.
But right now, folks, as I indicated, I have a nice booklet of information on the implantable biochip that we spent a little bit of time showing you earlier, and how this is the plan for the coming mark of the New World Order. So if you're interested, our addresses are at the end of the screen. So write me, Terry Cook, at the address you'll see it at the end of the program on the screen.
So I have a tape and a audio tape and videotape and a whole brochure of material that I have put together over the years, and at the end of the program you'll see my address, and just write to the address and we'll get back to you in the mail.
And we have another tape too. It's called Lucifer 2000, and it gets into the game plan of the Illuminati for the turn of the century.
And so you can be contacted through your Malibu address then on the screen. So write to Anthony Hilder at the address on the screen at the end of the program, and he'll be happy to send you a catalog of information on his videotape.
But Terry, bottom line, now you're a Christian. You've got an answer for those who happen to be considering becoming a Christian, or who are already so inclined.
Right. I think we need to share this with people. Number one, you should be spiritually prepared. You should take sides. You should take sides with the real God, not the false God of the New World Order. So please accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. If you hadn't ever thought about it, do so immediately. Open the Bible and accept Jesus as your Savior. Secondly, get prepared financially for the New World Order by getting some gold and silver, and also there's going to be a food shortage. Store some food and get your mind set in the combat mode, because we're about to go into the worst time the world
maybe
has
we
ever
should
known.
order some, include some lead with the gold and silver. One last statement about Millennium 2000. It's one that was made by MacArthur. We shall return.